Welcome. Today we'll be looking at Flexbox. Flexbox provides an efficient way to lay out items in your document into rows and columns. To use Flexbox, a flex is set on the display property of a parent element, which makes it become flex container, and its children becomes flex item. So what do I mean by what I've just said? So let's look at an example. Let's specify a div. A div with the container, class container. So we have some other divs. We have 1, 2, 3. So let's save this. Let's go into the style sheet. So into the style sheet we have dot container. Set this to display. So these are to change a display property. You say flex. So it becomes a flex container. Can you see? They are all aligned. So the items 1, 2, 3 becomes flex item, while the parent, the container, becomes a flex container. So the children flex item, which are blocked elements, are meant to be arranged vertically, will be arranged horizontally as a result of their parent becoming a flex container. And because the default flex direction is row, that's why you can see that they are arranged along the row. So this gives us a lot of flexibility to arrange and order these items the way we want. So let's take a look at some of the properties of flex container. So the first one we'll be looking at is the flex direction. So to properly understand the flex direction, so there are two other items we need to talk about to understand the flex direction, which is the main axis and the cross axis. So the main axis is the direction in which the flex item are laid out. So for this now, for the default direction, which is the row direction, the items are laid out in the main direction. So the main direction here is what is going to be the horizontal direction. For the flex row, the horizontal direction is the main direction. So items are laid out from left to right horizontally, what we are seeing on the screen. So that means they are laid out in the main direction. For the row, laid out in the main direction from left to right. So while the cross axis is always perpendicular to the main axis, so that means, what do I mean by perpendicular? So what that means is that the cross axis is along the y axis. That means it's perpendicular, it's at 90 degrees to the main axis. So there are 4 directions in which the flex item can be arranged. We can arrange it in the row direction. So the main axis runs from, so for the row direction, the main axis runs from the left to the right. So the flex item are arranged from left to right, just as we have 1, 2, 3. We have the column direction. So in the column direction, the main axis run from top to bottom. So the flex item are laid out from top to bottom, and their cross axis run from left to right. So let's change the direction of this flex. So we say flex direction. We have column. Sorry, I misspelled direction here. Column. You can see. So their main axis is from what? Top to bottom. Why? Because they are arranged from top to bottom. So the cross axis and the main axis interchange. So now the cross axis will now run from left to right, while for the row, the main axis runs from top to bottom, and the main axis runs from left to right. But for the column direction, the main axis runs from the top to bottom, and you can see that's why the items are laid out from top to bottom. 1, 2, 3. So we also have row reverse. So the row reverse, the main axis runs in opposite direction to that of the row. So that means it runs from right to left, and the cross axis runs from bottom to top. So just like this one becomes, let's say, row reverse, row reverse. You can see. So we have 3, 2, 1 instead of 1, 2, 3. You can see. So it's running from what? From right to left. The main axis is running from right to left, while the main axis, the cross axis, will run from bottom to top. So the others are reversed. So we also have column reverse. So column reversed. So the items are laid out from bottom to top along the main axis for column, while along the cross axis they are laid out from right to left. So these are the possible directions for the flex direction: the row, column, row reverse, column reverse. So let's look at another property of the flex container. So another property of a flex container is flex wrap. So this determines whether the flex item of a flex container should wrap or not. So that is, if they should break to a new line after occupying a particular width. So the browser default is no wrap. So that means everything will try to occupy a straight line. They won't break to the next line even if there is no space. So items tend not to break into a new line but continues to be laid out horizontally. Even if you have to scroll, you still continue to scroll. Why? Because the browser's default is no wrap. So you have to fill the whole screen, continue to scroll. So let's look at an example. So let me comment this out. Sorry. Comment it out. So let me write. We have a UL. We have an L. L here. So I'm not really okay. Let me just put something 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this, let's save this. So we have. Let's comment this out since we are not using this. So let's come back to our UL. So our UL. So this since is a container, a parent container, a flex container. Sorry, we make the flex container by giving it a display of flex. So we say. So let's remove the dots. We say list style tab, list style tab. We don't want this, we want none. So that removes that removes the dots from the L. So because it's flex now, display flex, and we know the default flex direction is row. Everything is hurrying from left to right. So let's start the L, the list item. So we have a width of 50 pixels for the each L item. We have height 50 pixels. So we have a background, so we can be able to identify background. Let's give it a Rebecca purple. So we have a margin of 10 pixels. You can see. So this is each item now. So let me add more L items so we can see what I'm talking about. So we have L9. Let me add down one more. L10. Can you see? It's trying to occupy the whole space. So it's trying to scroll. It's trying to occupy, filling the whole space. So let's continue to add more. Let's see until it gives up. See, it's still trying to occupy the space. So immediately if you see that the items are laid up, they are not trying to break up to the next line. But immediately we apply this property flex wrap to it, they won't try to occupy the space anymore. They wrap to the next line, they break to the next line. So that's what it does. So you can see that they break to the next line. So let's try to complete the number. So let's make it 14. See, so it breaks to the next line. just by applying wrap. And we can also add reverse wrap. So what the reverse wrap does is that so items are wrapped in reverse order. Let's type that properly. Okay, wrap reverse, not reverse wrap. Wrap reverse. You can see. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you can see 8, 9, 10. So it's reverse the order in which it's wrapping the item. So let's look at another property of the flex container, flex flow. So this flex flow is a shorthand form that combines both flex direction and flex wrap. So we said the default direction here is the flex direction here is flex row. Flex direction here, the default is flex row. Sorry, row. So row. So to write the shorthand flex flow, all we could do is just, so rather than writing two separate rules, we can just say flex flow. Then we'll specify the row, since this row is default, and the next one will be the wrap, flex wrap. That will be for wrap reverse. So this is it. So let's comment out the standalone property. You can see it's still the same. So let's change this to reverse, to wrap, and let's see what happens. Since you can see, so it changed back to the initial order of wrapping. So the next thing we'll look at is justify content. So justify content, this is used to align items across the main axis. So that means along the default direction in which items are laid out. That's the main axis. So for example, we said the default direction now is the row direction. So if we want to align items along the left to right direction, which is the main axis of the row direction, so all we need to do is just come to the parent, the flex container, justify content. We can either say there are several properties you can add to it. So flex, you can either say flex start. Let's have a flex start. So flex start, all the items are aligned to the beginning of the container. So let me try and comment out some of the box so we can really see this example. Yes, flex start, all the items are aligned to the beginning of the flex container. So we can also have flex end. When we have flex end, they are attached to the end of the container. You can see they are aligned to the end of the container. So you can see the alignment is still along the main axis, which is from left to right for row. So if I were to change the flex direction to column, the flex end would be in a vertical way. So let's see flex start for this, because the height is, let's give it an height so we can properly see for the column. Height, say 100 inches. Okay, let me give the body the height. So let's give this to occupy the whole height of its parent, so that 100%. So let's give flex end now, and let's see what happens. You can see flex end, it's taking aligned to the end. So let's change it back to row. So let's see. Let's check the other property of justify content. So we can also add space around. So space around creates an equal amount of space around each flex item. You can see an equal amount of space around each flex item. So let's look at space between. So for the space between, the flex item are spaced evenly. So equal space is between each flex item. There's equal space between each flex item. So this, the previous one, which is space around, it places equal space around each flex item. So let me add a border around this so we can see how it's been played out. Yeah, so let me remove this height. You can see. So we have a space between. So let's check space around again. You can see. So equal space around each item. So now we've looked at justify content now. So let's look at align. So at this point, I think I might need to return the height 100%. So let me move this here from here. This to the top. Okay. So let me come back here. So align items. So these align the items along the cross axis. So align items also can take flex start, flex end, center, stretch, baseline. So let's look at flex start. So flex start. So items are aligned at the top. Can you see? Because that's the flex start along the y-axis, which is the cross axis. So now let's take flex end. They are brought to the bottom. As you can see, because the cross axis for the row direction is from top to bottom. But if I were to change this to column now, if I change this to column, you can see for the column, items are aligned from left to right. So that's why the flex end is at the right. So the flex start will be at the left hand side. Flex start. So let's change it back to row. Let's continue. So let's look at center. So when we place center here, the items are aligned at the center. And even for justify content also, we can use specify center. So when you write center for both align items and justify content, the item is placed at the center. Can you see? Item is placed perfectly at the center. So this is a shorthand form of placing item for when the appearance has when you want to place an element at the center of the screen or at the center of any element, you can just give it a display flex, justify content center, align item center, then it centralizes it. So let's look at the align item. Let's look at stretch. So stretch expands the flex item from one end of this cross axis to another. So this stretch, so it expands it. So let's give it a height of let's try 100 pixels. So let's stretch work. Let's remove the heights on the flex item, so you can see. So the stretch are aligned from top to the bottom. So even if I return this to 100% to occupy 100% viewport of its parent, so stretch will allow the element to stretch from top to the bottom along the cross axis. So baseline. So let's try baseline. So for the baseline, let's take a look at another example. So let's comment this out also. So just comment everything out here. So let's take a look at another example. So I have another UL. The first L being LO. Second L. What do we have here? We have welcome. So instinct up. So the next one we have idea. So the next one we have learning CSS. So let's go and start out. So here I'm going to comment out these guys. So let me like that. So these guys, move them all. So let me select them again and move them out. So here, having a new style, how you feel? Display, flex, list, style tab. We have none. Border 2 pixel dash blue. Justify content. Space around. We have align items. So let's leave this out first, since this is what we're trying to see what effect it does on it. So I give height of 200 pixel. So for the LIs now, let's see. For the list item, give it a width of 50 pixel. Background, Rebecca purple. The other same above. So I have a margin of 10 pixel. So this is the item. I'll give it color. So let's add the baseline. Align item, baseline. Can you see what happens? So what it does is trying to align each item. There's an imaginary line drawn at the bottom in which it's trying to align all the items. So this is what I will do. let me add I want to change the font size of all the elements except the last one. So I would say li not. So not is a way of saying, okay, don't choose this particular element, not the fourth child of the list item. So that applies the font size to all the first 3 elements except the last one. So we have 3 rem. Let's give it 3 rem. So let's save that. Can you see? So what this does is it's trying to align all the item, because there's a straight line drawn across, imaginary line drawn across, in which it's trying to align the bottom of all these. So by drawing an imaginary line along the bottom of the first letter in each box, so that's what it's now trying to align. So if you look at the ELO, the HE, if you draw an imaginary line below it, look at the WE, you can see that it aligns. Look at the I, if you draw imaginary line, you can see that it aligns. And look at the learning also, you can see that they all sit on a particular imaginary line. So that's what the align item baseline does along the cross axis. So let's draw a line from HE to WE to HI to learning. You can see there's an imaginary line. So that's a baseline. So all these letters sit on that line. So that's what just align item baseline does. It allows them sit, the first letter of each box sit on a particular line, an imaginary line. So align content. Align content is majorly applied to flex items that are wrapped, and they have similar value as align item except for baseline. So we can use align content for flex items. So on each item you can also use align content on them, but you can't accept the only property of align content accept the same properties such as align items except for baseline. So it accepts stretch, flex start, flex end, center. So let's look at flex, the properties of flex item.